Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. So we know Victor Conte, may he rest in peace, has passed away. And I'm going to say this. I see some people saying some really negative stuff about him, and that ain't really my style. I feel like once somebody is deceased, whatever that was going on with them, if it wasn't something good, you let them take it with them to the grave. You don't keep the negative alive. You celebrate the life and the positive. People had to keep in mind that this man had a family, people who loved him, 75 years old. He lived a very interesting life. Now, I almost want to say, unfortunately, what he was known for was giving athletes performance enhancement drugs that were undetectable. Okay? Went to jail for it, came out, decided he wanted to be an advocate for clean sports. No more PEDs, no more drugs, nothing to give an athlete an unfair advantage. However, some people weren't really sold on that. Now, I'm going to say this. With the athletes who have worked with Victor Conte, they do seem to have, they seem to have had a little different kind of pep in their step when they get into that damn ring. You know what I'm saying? I've been talking about this for a long time. Now, there are some YouTubers out here who were trying to who are having a lot of, I would say, like teleconferences and interviews with Victor Conte and asking him questions. And he was very honest, very open, candid, straightforward. He didn't try to hide anything. But for me, right, I don't know who's succeeding him. I don't know how the business is going to continue. I don't know, because see, I don't keep up with it like that. Because I never cared about all the intricacies of the SNAC program. My thing was always, why would a fighter work with an individual who went to jail for providing athletes with undetectable performance enhancement drugs? Nobody could ever explain that to me, because my argument was always, look, you have 3 guys. Matter of fact, you have 5 guys, all chemists who understand drugs, all qualified to help you with your supplementation, all qualified to help you get in the best shape. My thing was always, if there are 5 of those guys there, 4 are unknown but qualified, and then you got Victor Conte as a 5th one, why would you gravitate towards Victor Conte? I can never get anyone to give me a straight answer. It's like, if I'm a chemist or a pharmacist or whatever, right? Let me close this door. It's my 8-year-old in there making noise and shit. But why? If I'm qualified, right, to do the same thing that this person's doing, Victor Conte, right? If I'm qualified to do the same thing he's doing, why would you go work with him and not me? There has to be a reason. Now, going forward, I want to see how the fighters who were working with Victor Conte, I want to see how they perform. Okay? Let's see how they perform now. Now, quite a few fighters, of course, Terence, Crawford, Devin, Haney. Devin Haney has a fight coming up, which he's facing Brian Newman Jr. Come on in. You gotta turn that down, little man. Okay, Daddy doing the video, all right? You okay? You okay? That's my little man right there. You okay? All right. Don't turn that up loud, all right? Okay. But you got Devin, Haney, you got Terence, Crawford. Crawford is in the breeze right now. Looks like he's trying to go after Janabek Alam Kanuli, so he called him out. So that looks to be the direction he's going to fight at 160 pounds. But Devin Haney has a fight coming up in a couple of weeks with Brian Oman Jr. But for me, the individuals who are working with the SNAC program, you know, I want to see how they perform. You know, Shakir, Clarissa Shields. I want to see how they perform when they get back in the ring. You know, Caleb Plant, Dimitri Boo Andre, who just can't get a fight to save his life. But that's what I'm going to be looking at. Now, I'm pretty sure the things that Victor Conte had in place are still in place. And you may say, okay, so do you think he was still administering pads to athletes that couldn't be detected? I'm not going to say that I believe that, but what I'm going to say is I can't understand why I can never understand why an athlete would go and work with an Angel Mimo Heredia, Victor Conte, Dr. Usman Sajjad. These are guys who've been, you know, two of them, you know, went to the joint for that shit. Mimo Heredia and Victor Conte. They paid their dues. I'm not saying that Victor Conte deserved to suffer the rest of his life. What I'm saying is, I can't understand why fighters gravitated towards him. And I couldn't understand why so many fighters work with Angel Mimo Heredia, but then they don't want anyone to know. Angel Mimo Heredia works with a lot of fighters still, and athletes as a whole. He knows his shit, but he doesn't want anybody. It almost seems to me like he doesn't want anyone to know that he's in these camps. And then for Dr. Usman Sajjad out there in the UK, in case y'all don't know who he is, he was a, maybe I should just show y'all, right? Instead of me running my mouth because I know all this shit off the top of my head. Dr. Usman Sajjad he worked with Tyson Fury. He was working with Conor Benn and a lot of other athletes. But those two names stand out because with Tyson Fury, the way he performed against Deontay Wilder, the way he was able to lose all that weight, a lot of people just couldn't understand how he was able to lose that weight, return to the heavyweight division, and find his way back at the top of the sport and to be able to come out here and knock fighters out, something that he was never really known for doing. They were saying just because he put on weight and was sitting on his punches and not moving around anymore. But a lot of other people who felt like, yo, if you weren't knocking people out before, how you knocking people out now? You know what I'm saying? And I could definitely understand those who were saying that. Now, for those who are wondering, the Dr. Usman Sajjad, that's him right there with Tyson Fury, okay? So he does not have a good reputation because he's the individual who's working with Conor Benn, and he actually came out and said, hey, if you get caught taking peds today, then you got to be stupid because it's so easy to take peds and to be able to beat VADA because at certain times you take it to where you still get the benefits, but the peds will be out your system by the time they come around to test you. So when he said that shit, it got a lot of people talking. You know what I'm saying? Then, for those of y'all who don't know, okay, then you got Angel Mimo Heredia. He knows his shit. You know what I'm saying? He really does. Now, this is him here. Angel Mimo Heredia on the right, Robert Garcia in the middle, and Bam crazy ass, what's his name? Brandon Reels on the left. But when it comes to Mimo Heredia, he's another one who were working with athletes and they did very well underneath him. But some of the athletes he was working with I didn't even know. I remember watching Ugas, your Danish Ugas, right? I remember him fighting Sean Porter, and I couldn't understand how he was whipping Sean Porter's ass because he got robbed in that fight, but he beat Sean Porter. And then I saw him fight Pacquiao and the way he beat the shit out of Pacquiao. You know, I was like, damn, you get fighting like that? Then, you know, I found out that he had been working with Angel Mima Heredia. Doesn't mean there was any foul play. All I'm saying is, it made me wonder, how would he have performed if he wasn't working with him? Because remember, a guy like Yordenis Ugas, he had turned pro and was taking some losses, and Top Rank dropped his ass, and he didn't know what he was going to do. He had stopped boxing for a while, and then somebody started working with him again and got him back in the gym. But he was done. He was out here in America lost in the breeze because Top Rank had dropped him. But he returned to the sport, and all of a sudden, stopped beating the shit out of everybody. Now, he had talent, he had skill, but makes you wonder, how's that even possible? Okay. Now, with Victor Conte, the two names that everybody talks about, Devin Haney and Terence Crawford. You know, they have worked with Victor Conte for quite some time. Sean Porter worked with Victor Conte. We all know Sean Porter was explosive as hell. Okay, but he was an aggressive pressure fighter who came in there to break you down and beat you up. But he could also box. You know, Sean Porter could do everything. But there were people who said, yo, these guys working with Victor Conte just seem to have something special about him. Now, some people talk about the ZMAs, they talk about the different chambers he has and all the different things that are simulated, basically to help improve oxygen efficiency, okay? So where the fighters and something about the red blood cells, etc. Anyway, they're able to have get those second and third wins, fourth wins they need in the fight and to be able to push in them championship rounds. Any fighters who weren't working with Victor Conte, they weren't going to be able to do those things. They'd be able to push, they'd be able to have stamina, and they'd be able to fight in those championship rounds, but not with the intensity of a SNAC fighter. So my thing is now, what happens to SNAC fighters now? What do they do? Where do they go? Okay, who's still running the show over there? Because I have to wonder if SNAC was Victor Conte's, if he was the mastermind, he was the brain, he came up with everything, he was running everything. He knew how to put everything together to make sure for every fighter, whatever specific, I would call it like a bundle, he was giving them. If he was the one doing that and he's gone now, well, what are these fighters going to do? That's my question. How are they going to be able to get in the ring and have the confidence that they had before when they were working hand in hand with Victor Conte? He's got to have a successor. I ain't talking about his administrative team who's responsible to fulfill orders and ship his products all over the world. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about someone to step in and fill his shoes, to be hands-on with the fighters, to make sure those fighters, once they go through whatever products or supplements or whatever he does for them, right? What happens to those fighters? Who's there to make sure they can carry that on? To continue to deliver those processes for athletes. See, that's what I don't know. There may be people out here who know. Remember, some guys live on the internet and all they want to do is talk about snack. They probably have far more knowledge than me on it. But I'm a common sense man. And I believe that, hey, if you were getting some kind of additional benefit from working with Victor Conte and SNAC, and he is a guy who went to the joint for providing athletes with undetectable substances that gave them a clear advantage when they were competing. You know, what happens to these fighters now? Now, of course, I'm not saying anybody was up to any foul play, but the reason why I wonder about this shit, right? And I'll be honest with you, I've always questioned why work with him, why not work with the qualified unknown guy. But Victor Conte, when he came out and I think the biggest mistake he made after he, went to prison and everything, I think the biggest mistake he made, but he was being honest, so you got to respect that, is when they were asking him, hey, if you wanted to, could you provide certain PEDs to athletes, and you know how to help them beat the test, beat the VADA testing? Could you give them stuff that would go undetected? Now, for me, that's kind of a stupid question because the man went to jail for the shit. He ain't go to jail and come and then he ain't leave his brain in jail. Still knew how to do it. Matter of fact, he knows how to do it. Mimo Heredia knows. Usman Sajjad knows. They understand cycles. They understand everything. They understand what drugs a fighter can take that maybe is not on the ban list. They have what I call suitable supplements. Okay, this right here ain't banned. It's going to give you the same effect of this. So we give you that instead. But remember, I'm not accusing nobody of anything, but I'll say this. If there was some foul play with these fighters, and when I say these fighters, I'm not singling anybody out. I'm just saying fighters as a whole. Any fighters who may have done anything foul with Victor Conte. If they know they were getting in the ring and winning fights that maybe deep down they probably felt they couldn't win, but they had that extra something that was given to them by Victor Conte, how can they have confidence going forward in any fight? That's my thing. How can you have confidence? That's like me being out here at 50 years old and my son, right? 15. Very, very athletic, very fast, twitchy, everything. Everything you want an athlete, that little boy has it. And not because he's my son, he's fucking special, right? It's like me and him going out here. I still feel good. I still feel strong. I still feel in shape. And then he and I run a 100-yard dash. And I get a 50-yard head start. They say go, and pew, I run and I beat his ass. But it's a 100-yard dash, but I had a 50-yard half start. So I only had to cover half the distance he had to travel. Not very fair, is it? How can I come out here and feel confident knowing that I got another race coming up? This race in particular, I don't get that advantage. Probably not going to want to go in there and make that race. You're going to be like, man, fuck this shit. Ain't going to embarrass me. Little young bastard, you know what I'm saying? So with these fighters, if they knew they had a little extra something, how can they go into a next fight with the confidence, with the chest puffed out, showing all 32 teeth? How are they going to do that? So I'm very, very curious to know what's next. I went out there to the website. It's still up. You can still order stuff, and the administrative piece doesn't seem to have missed a beat. But what I want to know is that, if there was some craziness going on, something shady going on, the fighters who are depending on that, what happens to them now? Now, Gervonta Davis, he actually went out there on Twitter, and while I'm talking to you, I'm going to see if I can find it. He went out there and said, let me see if I can find it. I'll just show you. He went in. He says something crazy. Oh, here it is right here. Okay, check this out. This guy says Gervonta Davis is the lowest scumbag. Hopefully that's the last time we ever hear about this piece of shit in boxing. That was a direct shot after Victor Conte passed away. No self-awareness, no respect for women or dead. Get Tank out of boxing ASAP. So let me see this right here. Make this smaller for you. Gervonta says right here. Okay. He says, "Good day in boxing. No more SNAC for you bastards." That's kind of crazy. And then this is what was posted about Jake Paul. But you can see Gervonta Davis didn't really have anything good to say because he believes that people who work with Victor Conte are cheating. He believes that Victor Conte was giving fighters PEDs, things that could not be detected. A lot of people agree with Gervonta Davis. I'm not saying I do. I just find it interesting that so many fighters will gravitate towards him. But I'm going to tell you what, man. Victor Conte, July 10th, 1950 to November 3rd, 2025. Listen, there are a lot of people who respected him. There's a lot of people who come out and tell you that he cleaned up his act. And everything he was doing for sports was to be commended. And that he basically is a pioneer for clean sports, and he left a positive legacy. Even though he had his little issues before. They're saying it's unfair for people to come out here and to say things like what Gervonta Davis is saying. You know, I'll just say this, right? For Victor Conte, you know, maybe he was a tower of power. But this is a good lesson for a lot of people, a lot of athletes, and just a lot of people associated with sports or out of sports. Man, sometimes people don't forget. You know, they don't want to let go of the mistakes you made. And you just can't escape it. And Victor Conte, he was very open. And for him to be willing to come on people's platforms, especially guys who are fucking clowns, you know what I'm saying? Who aren't qualified to even talk to a guy like that, they're fucking idiots. How you gonna get somebody on your platform and then come back and do a video and be talking shit about them? But you know, my morals are different. If somebody come on my platform, we talk, I'm not gonna come out there and do that. I'm not gonna try to bring you on my platform to play stump the dummy or to make you look bad or make you look guilty. I'm not doing that. I just think that's corny. I'd rather you just not come to the platform. I don't need motherfucking views. You know what I'm saying? If I gotta do you like that, you don't need to come on here. But everybody else's situation is different, you know? That ain't my style. And am I knocking people who do that? Yeah, I am, because I think it's fucking corny. I think it's horrible. You know, that's shady. You're a sucker. It's like somebody invite me to come on, hey man, let's do a live together. I'll do it. With you know, I'll feel you out. And I'll be like, yeah, I'll come on there and do it. And then they come out and then you start talking shit. You know what I'm saying? You can't do stuff like that, man. That shit come back to get you. But anyway, your rest in peace to Victor Conte. But I am curious to see what kind of confidence people are going to have who are working with him, what kind of confidence they're going to have going forward when they get into that ring. That's what I want to know. Not the next 2 weeks, next 3 months, next year. I'm talking guys who are going to be around the sport the next few years. Let's see what happens in the next couple of years with these guys who've been performing at an optimal level, who are working with Victor Conte directly. Let's see what happens. Let's see if people start retiring, or if they get in the ring and all of a sudden they can't pull the trigger. They can't fight with the same intensity, passion, level of energy in the first round, like and also in the last round. I think only then we'll be able to solve for X. So I'm gonna set 1 year as a planning factor for certain fighters. Let's see what happens a year from now when they fight in a year from now, right? Even if they have 2 or 3 fights in between, let's just see by this time next year. Let's see how they look. Let's see how they perform. Okay? Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Very, very, very interesting. Just really unfortunate, man. You look at Victor Conte in June of this year. He's talking about how he has a great team of physicians, how he has a history of overcoming adversity, and he'll overcome this health crisis too. You know what I'm saying? You seeing him posting stuff like that just a few months ago, and now he's out of here. So anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. What happens to SNAC fighters now that Victor Conte is gone? That's what I want to know.